Welcome back to the world of Taiwanese semiconductor factories. In our previous video, we talked about the fascinating history, secrecy, and innovation of these factories. But in this video, we'll delve into a more pressing issue, the chip shortage. It's like the world has suddenly run out of its essential fuel, and everyone's feeling the pinch. So join us as we try to uncover the mystery behind the chip shortage and its impact on our daily lives. It all began back in the times of COVID-19. When the pandemic first hit, the world was thrown into chaos. Suddenly, many people were forced to work or study from home, and the demand for laptops, tablets, and other devices skyrocketed. This surge in demand created a corresponding increase in demand for semiconductors, the tiny chips that power these devices. However, as the pandemic swept across the globe, many industries were forced to shut down or reduce production. This caused a ripple effect through the supply chain, with factories in Asia shutting down or reducing production, creating a shortage of semiconductors to meet the growing demand. Enter Taiwan Semiconductor Manufacturing Company, aka the TSMC, one of the biggest players in the semiconductor industry. TSMC produces chips for some of the world's largest tech companies, including Apple, Nvidia, and Qualcomm. But even TSMC found it difficult to keep up with the sudden surge in demand caused by the pandemic. As a result, TSMC and other semiconductor manufacturers were forced to prioritize their customers, which led to some companies receiving more chips than others. This, in turn, caused a ripple effect throughout the supply chain, with some industries being hit harder than others. But COVID-19 was not the only calamity that affected the world of semiconductors. Another major reason behind the shortage is the unexpected drought that hit Taiwan in 2021, a major player in the semiconductor industry. It has been the worst on record in the past 50 years, with severe consequences for both the environment and the economy. The lack of rainfall has caused water levels in reservoirs to drop to dangerously low levels, with many of its reservoirs at less than 20% capacity and some falling below 10%. This has led to water rationing, with households and businesses forced to cut back on usage. It's not just any drought. It has caused a water war between chip manufacturers and locals. Imagine chip factories having to compete with farmers for access to water. Who would have thought that the future of electronics would depend on a reliable water supply? TSMC, the world's largest contract chip maker, uses over 150,000 tons of water per day, which is about 80 standard swimming pools. That's a lot of water, and it's only for one company. Due to the drought, TSMC and other semiconductor manufacturers have been relying on water trucks to maintain production. It's estimated that TSMC has spent over NT $0.5 billion on water trucks, which exceeded their original budget planning. But it's not just about the shortage of microchips, it's also about climate change. Taiwan is at a high climate risk, and the research predicts that the exposure to water shortage in North Taiwan, which includes Taipei and Taoyuan, the most populated metropolitan area, will increase dramatically due to climate change. Climate model projections show that both typhoons and spring rainfall are likely to decrease with climate change, which means that the production of microchips may become even more challenging in the future. Despite the challenges, TSMC and other chip companies have been working to increase their process water recycling ratio. TSMC's water recycling ratio was around 87% between 2015 and 2019, but total water consumption still increased by 70%. This shows that there is a need for a more sustainable and efficient way of producing semiconductors. The consequences of the chip shortage are dire. Imagine going through your day without any access to technology. No phones, no laptops, no cars, no planes, no smart homes, no internet. Sounds like a nightmare, doesn't it? Well, the shortage of microchips in Taiwan could make that a reality. One of the industries hit hardest by the semiconductor shortage is the automotive industry. It's not just your computer or phone that depends on these little electronic wonders. It's your car too. Yes, you heard that right. Even a $50,000 car has hundreds of chips in it. And that number is set to grow to over 1,500 in the coming years, as vehicles become more autonomous. They rely on dozens of semiconductors to power everything from infotainment systems to safety features. As a result, many automakers have been forced to shut down production lines and delay the releases of new models. But it's not just the automotive industry that has been affected. Even ASML, the world's largest maker of lithography scanners used to make chips, has suffered from chip shortages. Imagine that. Even the guys who make the machines that make the chips can't get their hands on enough chips. The problem is not just limited to cars and lithography scanners. The market for semiconductor manufacturing tools is enormous and multifaceted. If TSMC cannot get the machines they need on time, their fab will stand idle. Ultimately, other suppliers of fab tools as well as TSMC's customers will suffer, so supply chain management will be even more crucial tomorrow than it is today. The snowballing demand for semiconductors will ultimately lead to an increase in their prices, which will affect the prices of actual goods too. Meanwhile, logistics is getting more complicated, which will also affect pricing. All in all, electronics are going to get more sophisticated, but also more expensive in the coming years. There's more to it. Political tensions and conflicts are also playing a role. The ongoing war between Russia and Ukraine has disrupted chip production in Eastern Europe, while the trade war between China and the US has affected the global supply chain. Inside TSMC, the Taiwanese chip-making giant that's building a new plant in Phoenix, executives are closely monitoring these developments and their potential impact on the industry. However, that's a story for another time.